Okay, guys, let's finish up that discussion about significant figures. Now, no, I'm not going to be doing every single one of these problems. I'm just going to kind of pick one or two in each category. Okay, so how many sig figs? 3, that 0 is trapped. 4, the trailings are significant because of the decimal. 2, because leading zeros are never significant. And 3, leading zeros are never significant, trapped is always, trailing is only significant with a decimal, and there is not one in this case. Okay? Now here, we're going to add. So when it's addition, it's the least amount of digits after the decimal place. Okay? So I'm going to take 25.14 plus 3.4 plus 15.031. Okay. And my calculator gives me the answer of 43.571. I have 2 digits after the decimal. I have 1 digit after the decimal. I have 3 digits, so my answer can only have 1 digit after the decimal. So 43.5, but there's a 7 after that, so I'm going to round that up to 6. Okay. Now, same with subtraction. We have 2 digits after the decimal and 3 digits after the decimal, so our final answer here should only have 2 digits after the decimal place. With multiplication and division, it's the least amount of sig figs. So I have 4 sig figs and 4 sig figs, so they're the same. So my final answer is going to have 4 sig figs. So 3005 multiplied by 45.20. Okay, so I'm going to show you what my calculator gives me, and then I'm going to write it correctly for the right number of sig figs. So I get 1, 3, 5, 8, 2, 6. Okay, but that's more than 4 sig figs. So what should we do? Well, we know the 1, 3, 5, 8. Those are my 4 significant figures. But do you see how 1,300 is very different than 135,000? And so we can't lose track of the number that it is. So let's add some zeros to this. Okay? Because trailing zeros are only significant if there's a decimal place. And so since I didn't add one, this is an answer that has only 4 significant figures. Or you could write it in scientific notation. You could do 1.358 times by 10, and we move that decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, so that also works. All right, volume of the box. So you're just going to take 14.5 centimeters multiplied by 19, or 15.9 centimeters multiplied by 21.1 centimeters. So 3 sig figs, 3 sig figs, 3 sig figs. So our final answer will have 3 sig figs. But keep in mind with units, centimeters times by centimeters times by centimeters is cubic centimeters. So that would be your final units there. All right, let's round some of these numbers to 3 significant figures. This is the one that I get the most mistakes on. Leading zeros are never significant. So we can write these zeros down, 0.00. Those are not significant. Now we need 3 sig figs. So we're going to take 2, 4, and 3, but the 7, the digit after the 3, is 5 or greater, and so it's going to round that 3 up to a 4. Okay. Now let's look at this one here. Remember our coefficient numbers, those are where our sig figs lie. The times 10 numbers are not significant. So this would be 3.76, but then the 5 will have us round up that 6 to 7 times by 10 to the negative third. Okay. All right, we're going to complete these calculations. Division. So our final answer is going to have the least amount of sig figs. So 1 sig fig, 2 sig figs, 4 sig figs. So our final answer will only be 1 sig fig. So if I take 3 and I multiply that by 0.089, and that's by 5.023. Okay. My calculator gives me the long answer of 1.34114. But we can only have one sig fig. So that would just be 1. And I know that's hard to wrap your head around. And the reason why is this digit within here was only one significant figure. That means it had little precision, like little to no precision. And so our answer is going to be the same way because part of these calculations had a measurement that was not very precise, so our answer is not going to be very precise. Okay? Now, if you have, kind of like we saw here, multiplication and division all within the same problem, you can, if it's easy for you, to run it all at once and then look at the least amount of sig figs. Same here. We could run all that at once if we wanted to. But as soon as we add addition and subtraction, then we have to consider what's happening here before we can move on. Because if I take that 50.31 and I add that to the 80.408, I get an answer of 130.718. Okay, so 130.718. But how many digits after the decimal place should I have? 2 digits, 3 digits. So my final answer should only have 2 digits after the decimal place. But I'm right in the middle of a calculation. Okay? And I don't want to round in the middle of a calculation because if I round multiple times, I'm going to get a rounding error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to underline all the digits that I'm taking with me that are significant. Okay? And so we have 2 digits after the decimal place plus everything that came before it. And so that's what we have right there. And we're going to keep using this number in our calculations, but recognizing that it's only 5 significant figures. Okay, so we'll take that and we'll divide it by 14.38 multiplied by 0.015. Okay. So 14.38 times 0.015, and then I take that number and I multiply it by our 130 value. So my final answer here is 28.1959. I have 5 sig figs, 4 sig figs, 2 sig figs. So my final answer is only going to be 2 significant figures. Okay. Same concept with the one right here. Add all these first and draw a line under the ones that are significant. Then divide with the big number, and then at the end, round. Okay? All right, guys. Well, that's significant figures. Come talk to me if you have any questions, because I know it's a confusing topic, and know that you can always sign up for a study session, and we can take some time, some more individual time to concentrate on items that you might be struggling with. Okay, talk to you all soon.